To see everybody.
Okay, you're live.
Good evening. On behalf of the PTA Council, we welcome you to Candidates Night. My name is Kay Jackson, and my assistant, moderator slash timekeeper is my husband, David Jackson. We're the parents of Nathan, a 2014 Woodlands graduate, and Sydney, a Woodlands junior. The format for this evening will include opening statements by each candidate for 3 minutes. Responses to questions are not to exceed 2 minutes, and summations for each candidate will be 2 minutes. The order of openings and summations were selected randomly. Candidates will receive a 15-second warning before being muted. Let's get started. Our opening statement will be from candidate Ms. Washington. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, Ms. Washington.
Good evening to the PTA Council, and I'm so excited that we are here tonight. I want to thank you for this opportunity to use this platform so that many people can understand why I am running for the Board of Education. I am Kiana Washington. I am a mother and a wife. My son graduated in 2012, and I have a senior and I have a sophomore, not a junior yet, right now at Woodlands High School. And I am a proud graduate of the class of 1990 Woodlands High School. I'm here tonight just wanting you to understand that through all of my educational experience and just being an employee, even in the Greenburgh Central School District, I believe that through all that, I'll be able to be a candidate or hopefully a trustee to really move with the new administration so that we can come together as a community and really work for the students. It's all about the students, about their achievement. We're pouring into their future, and I'm really hoping that I could be a part of it. I want to thank you once again, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, for being here tonight. It's great seeing you. I missed your smile, and I'm hoping that we have a great night. And I just want to say good luck to all of the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Next, we'll hear from candidate Ms. Lazari. Go ahead and.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Lazari. I'm a Hartsdale resident for 6 years. I live with my supportive husband, Chris, and my 2 kids, ages 6 and 3. And sitting here tonight, I'm struck by the fact that my kids are so much younger than everyone else's kids here. And I think that's a really good thing. That means that I am committed to this district for at least the next 15 years. It means that I am thinking about the very beginning all the way up to the end, and I'll see it all the way through. I want to grow with you, and I want to lead Greenburgh into the future. In fall 2019, when my oldest child started ECP, right away I started getting together with other parents, and we realized that we needed a strong advocating body for our kids. So we founded the Early Childhood Program, PTA, so that we would have that advocacy group for our children. And all year long, a big thing that we kept working on was getting a playground for the ECP kids at Lee F. Jackson School. When they started, our 4-year-old children had nothing to do outside. I am very happy to report that due to my advocacy and that of the other parents of the PTA, that about a month ago, the ground was broken for a new playground for the ECP students at Lee F. Jackson. I feel confident that that would not have happened without our activism. So this past fall, hybrid learning has been really difficult, I think, for everyone. So my family and I made the decision to pull our daughter from Lee F. Jackson and put her in private school for the remainder of the year. During this time, I have remained active as Lee F. Jackson membership chairperson for the PTA, also on the Community Engagement Committee. And we do plan to return to the system very soon. So I don't just have experience with the younger kids, I also have a background in higher education. I have a master's degree in higher education and student affairs from NYU. I've worked in admissions and academic advising, so I know what skills students need to get into college and how to succeed once they're there. I think that Greenburgh has a real chance to grow. I think we have a chance to strengthen and grow our community. And I think that starts with open communication. And that should start at the top level, at the board level. I want to be there to open up communication. I'm going to improve academic achievement. I think it'll help with that. And it'll help fix our buildings. That's what we need here.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. So, okay, we're going to go next to Mr. Thomas. You can unmute yourself, Mr. Thomas.
So thank you so much, Kay and David, for hosting, and thank you very much to the Greenburgh Central School District PTA for putting together this forum. I want to send a huge thank to the Greenburgh Teachers Federation for their support for my candidacy, as well as to the faith leaders like Pastor Williams for his guidance and support. My name is Jamal Thomas, and I'm asking everybody who is watching or listening to join me in my quest to join the Board of Education here in Greenburgh Central School District. I'm a proud father of a brilliant 23-year-old daughter who is now a special education teacher in the Bronx, New York. She's not only my daughter, but she's also my business partner in our education consulting practice, Black on Black Education. She's the CEO. I'm just a co-founder. She might fire me if I don't let people know that. So I like to make it clear because I actually do like my job. I'm a son of this district, and many of my best friends in the world are people who I roamed the halls with Woodlands Middle and High School with 30 years ago. Today, I'm affectionately known as Uncle Jamal by many of their kids, and I love these children and want what's best for them in every way, but particularly when it comes to education. I love this town, and everywhere I go, people, anybody willing to listen, I let them know that I grew up in a very, very special place. And now I want my nieces and nephews to be able to tell the very same story when they become an old man like me. I want them to have a lifelong love of learning spurred by the influence they receive at home, but also by going to a school that's a world-class learning environment. For most of 2018 and 19, I traveled around the country in this tricked out RV running a marketing campaign for one of the leading personal care brands in the world. I visited over 250 schools. I gave free products. The kids played video games. They took a bunch of nice pictures. It was a really good time. But what I loved most about this opportunity was what I got to do in terms of talking to students about what they thought about school, what they liked, what they didn't like. I talked to over thousands and thousands of students, well over 1,000 educators. I asked them kind of the same questions. I talked to hundreds of families and communities to get a gauge of what people thought the future of education needs to look and feel like. That, as well as the experience of our business, where we've done over 60 podcast episodes with educators of a variety of different spectrums, where we have a semi-annual conference that we host. We've done super school events with educational leaders across the country. I've learned a lot. And the net is that I have the desire to bring back all that I learned here to Greenburgh. I think we can be one of the most innovative school districts in the world. We can be an exemplar for what the future of education will look like. And I look forward to sharing how during our time together tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Next, we'll have Mr. Williams.
Good evening. Thank you, PTA Council and Kay and Dave, for the opportunity to meet with you to discuss my candidacy. My name is Terry Williams, and I'm the father of 2 GCSD graduates and the husband of Gail Williams. My experience, my insistence on transparency, and my calls for board member accountability are the qualities that set me apart from the other candidates. I've worked with 3 new superintendents. This is important because we're entering a crucial period here as Dr. Linda Iverson assumes leadership of our district. She will need the assistance of trustees who are familiar with the issues facing our community and someone who understands how to help navigate the intricacies of our district. I will do everything that I can to help Dr. Iverson's entry and transition. Our children's education depends on it. I'm encouraged by the prospect of at least 2 new trustees joining me on the board. Chris Valen is a longtime volunteer that I've encouraged to run in the past. I'm less enthused about her timing, but better late than never. Jamal Thomas's work as an educational consultant and GCSD alumnus is exciting, and he will bring a unique insight to the table. Sarah has been an involved community member. They will bring a fresh perspective to the board. However, the learning curve of a new school board member is steep, and I will be able to help offer guidance to help them with the transition. Whichever 2 you select to join me, please remember that changing the culture occurs over time, and I encourage you and them, whoever is the odd person out, to stay engaged. We are playing the long game here. The board under the current leadership has taken steps to reduce transparency, most notably reducing the public comment period from 4 minutes to 2. I'm going to try to change that. As bad an idea as that is, poor decisions and a lack of accountability is particularly egregious in the last few years. The 2 major duties of a school board member are to hire the superintendent and make policy. If the public has no insight on a board member's position on either topic, how can you play your role as an educated voter? Well, let me help you with that. I'm on the record saying that I opposed not renewing Dr. Chase's contract. If you agree, I'm your candidate. I'm on record saying that changing leadership amid a pandemic was a bad idea. If you agree, then I'm your candidate. I'm on record supporting the administration spending plan for upgrading our facilities for our children. If you agree, I'm your candidate. Vote Terry Williams on May 18th. I'm your candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And I just want to let viewers at home know we are aware of the screen issue. I'm going to complete the opening statements, but during the question and answer period, we're going to try to get that rectified. Ms. Valen, you're next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. Thank you, PTA Council, for providing this forum, and thank you, public, for taking the time to consider your choice of Board of Education candidate. I'd especially like to thank the Greenburgh Teachers Federation for endorsing my candidacy. Let me introduce myself. I'm Chris Valen. I'm the parent of 2 boys at Woodlands Middle High School. My husband, Agustin, and I moved here 15 years ago and have been involved in the school since our children were in kindergarten. Previously, I was revenue manager of the EMEA region, which I'll probably talk about soon. And I created a diverse team for back office operations for a financial information company. I'm a past PTA president and board member, organizing many events at the elementary schools and chairing the Scholastic Book Fair for over 9 years. I've attended Board of Ed monthly and committee meetings for 10 years, participating in or being a member of the fiscal planning, the audit, the facilities, community engagement, and education committees. So although I might be new to the board if chosen, I will be able to hit the ground running because I'll have a good working knowledge of what needs to be done and how the board functions overall. I was also a core member of a parent group that was working towards fiscal equity from our state legislators. We're meeting with Senator Stuart Cousins and Assemblyman Avenanti. We got so far as to have a bill that never made it out of committee, but we gathered, I don't remember now, but countless hundreds of signatures on a petition to move that forward. I know that not everyone has the time to help as much as they want to in the schools, so I would like to serve as your arms, your ears, your voice on the board. I know that sometimes parents feel they're not really heard or that their children's issues aren't really being addressed, and we don't always know who to go to or where to go for answers. The board members can't usually provide those answers, but we can be that bridge to help you find resources or to voice your needs at the board level. In doing so, I would work collaboratively with a fresh perspective to help find solutions on how to best help our students so that they can best prepare how to live their life after GCSD. Y por último, me gustaría decir a los que hablan español que yo también hablo español, no a la perfección, pero si queréis hablar conmigo de sus preocupaciones sobre las escuelas, estoy disponible. Y si hay que repetir para que entienda la cosa bien, pues así es. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fallon. Next, we'll have Mr. Bitterman.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Jackson and Mrs. Jackson. It's really nice to see you again. And good evening to all who are joining us via Zoom. I want to thank you for making the commitment to spend time with us this evening. I also would like to thank the PTA Council. These are such important events that you operate and offer to our community, and I wish to congratulate you. Growing up in Westchester County, I learned firsthand the value of public school education, having attended the New Rochelle Public Schools. Upon graduation, I attended Boston University, where I earned a BA in history and a master's degree in secondary education. I returned to New Rochelle in 1991 to begin my teaching career as a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher at the Albert Leonard Middle School. While there, I gained not only incredible experience in the classroom, but I also gained incredible experience outside the classroom. I became an active member of our teachers union called FUSE, and then starting as a building representative and moving my way up through to becoming secretary of our United School Employees Union. In 2002, I accepted a teaching position in the Scarsdale Union Free School District, a position I hold to this day, teaching 6th graders the ancient world. For the past 18 years, I've lived at the colony of Hartsdale, condominium in the one behind Trader Joe. Since 2006, from 2006 to 2018, I served as president of that board, and since that date, I have served as its secretary. In 2012, I ran for a position on the Board of Education here in Greenburgh, and I feel honored and privileged to have served as a trustee of the district till the year 2018. As a trustee, I always believed and still do in the success of our schools touches all of its members. I believe then, as I believe today, that in order to achieve excellence in education, it is vital to have an open and respectful dialogue between trustees, parents, teachers, administrators, and community members, all stakeholders in our district. It is only by including everyone and working together that we will help our children to achieve their great potentials. I am running for election again this year because I believe our district, as it begins a new chapter with the new superintendent of schools, having experienced educators on the board, is vital to facilitate the kind of progress our students and community deserve. We must shift the focus away from the cult of personality that has delayed progress and distracted us. School districts that are focused on student achievement do not need to create branding committees. They do not need to rely on the show and the glow. In recent years, too much energy, much to the dismay of some trustees, has diverted our district's focus away from what really matters, creating an educational program that meets the needs of all students in our district. I have the temperament, the experience, and the passion for public education to serve this community, and I hope and I ask for your opportunity to do so once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bitterman. Now we'll hear from Ms. Darden Cintron.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kay and Mr. Jackson, for once again bringing us back to something that's very familiar, which is leading this event tonight. I am a 14-year resident. I moved here 14 years ago, starting over with my son. Everyone knows him. Elijah, he is a Woodlands graduate. He is now at Tuskegee University. I've had a lot of experience in our district and also around the state. I came to, I think the first PTA I joined was in Highview. And from there, I was a member of all other PTAs and also served as president at RJ Bailey. I was a correspondence secretary at RJ Bailey. And my vast experience with PTA, I've been the region director for Westchester East Putnam, and most recently, I am a past vice president of New York State PTA for advocacy. my experience, my personal experience right now, I am serving as a dean in a high school where I focus on making sure that our schools are safe physically, but also that our schools are safe emotionally and socially for students. I have a group of students that I work in on a daily basis. We have restorative circles and all sorts of things to make sure that we have an environment that is safe, that is comfortable, that students can grow and learn and really focus on learning. I have been for the past 2 years a graduate student pursuing my degree in school counseling. I will be graduating next month, so I'm very excited to go to that endeavor. I would say this, I am running for the board, a seat on the board again, because I think that there is more work to do. We have hired a new superintendent, and I think that she should be surrounded and supported by board members who are honest all the time, who are fair, and who are looking and focused on effective education for all of our students. I think that is something that I have been passionate about for all of my life, even before I became an educator. It is something that's always been important to me because education literally changed my trajectory and changed my perspective. And I think it's important to have people that want the same for all children. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. So we're going to take a second to try to correct the issue with the time taking up more of the screen when you're watching on YouTube, so everyone can more see the candidate's face. So what I want to find out from the candidates, the first question, I'm going to, what am I going to do? You're going to reduce the timer screen.
We'll show it on the screen.
Okay, but let's do the timer thing.
Okay, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna just, the timer will just be in a screen. So Mr. Bitterman, you'll be doing the first question. So I want to make sure that you can see the timer when you're gonna speak, and go ahead and say something right now, because I want to make sure when you're speaking, go ahead and talk over me.
Okay, well,
Perfect.
I'm willing
Okay,
to
now,
try whatever you need me to do.
can you show the timer?
Okay.
I'm not seeing the timer as you speak.
I'm
I'm seeing the rectangle. It says timer.
Yeah, just 1 second.
So put your camera.
No, that's all I need to do. Just share the screen.
No, but
Yeah, she's still getting the same thing.
no.
Yeah, now it's expanded again.
Yeah.
Laser.
I'm gonna call you.
Oh, okay. All right, so just give us a moment. We're trying to make sure that the but okay, but you can't share your screen. So how can we make sure that they see the timer?
He's trying to switch it.
I don't anticipate that I'll be taking your 3 minutes or 2 minutes. So if it works better, I'm just as happy to have it on the screen the way you have it. I know that it may not be the best optic, but I'm not much to look at. So maybe that works for the better. I can't even hear you.
Okay, Laser, I got you. Bye.
So do what?
Bye. All right. Okay, wait. Okay, okay, all right, so we'll do it this way. You're not going to share your screen. I'm going to see the screen. No, don't share it. Put 2 minutes on. Stop sharing. Okay, Eric, the question is, I'm just going to call out when it's 15 seconds.
Sure.
Is that going to work for all the candidates? You can unmute and let me know. I will let you know when it's 15 seconds and then when we're at 2 minutes. If all the candidates can just let me know if that's okay with you. Let me see how I can see. Let me just get you in the gallery view. Thumbs up from Eric, Sarah, Antoinette, Jamal, Kiana, Terry, thumbs up. So I will say clearly 15 seconds time. Okay, that way everybody at home can see who's speaking. What? Okay, all right. So it's on speaker view. Okay, the question for all the candidates. What hard skills, knowledge, or training gained through life experience, career, and/or education, and soft skills, habits and traits that shape how you work on your own or with others, would you bring to the Board of Education? Eric, your time starts now for 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, or I referenced, I have been a public school teacher for over 30 years. My experience at Boston University, where I received my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, has led me to an incredible life of a lifetime of learning. And I believe anyone who serves on the board should be a lifelong learner. I have taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade over that 30-year career and have had the opportunity to learn from master teachers. I've had the opportunity to implement, while in New Rochelle, the first inclusion model team-taught classroom at the middle school at Albert Leonard. Today, inclusion as a special education model in many places is the norm, but when I've been around a long time, that was not always the case. And it was a great honor and a privilege to be able to do so. I'm going to jump to the second part of the question, which is sort of the softer skill. I guess my softer skill that I think has value in this setting is that I come to every meeting prepared. My preparedness is one of those qualities that I think carries any member of a board. If they don't come to the meeting prepared, then they can't come to the meeting ready to serve. I come to meetings, whether at work, on my condominium board, even back during my previous service on this board, reviewing agendas, financial statements, and annotating notes or questions that I want to ask. Coming to any meeting prepared matters, especially when you're talking to parents at a CSE meeting. And for those who don't know, a CSE meeting is that opportunity to work on an individualized lesson plan. Coming to a meeting prepared, doing the work, knowing what questions to ask, and being prepared to ask additional questions to learn more information are important skills for a board member because you represent those not in the room. Thank you.
Eric, did you hear when I said 15 seconds?
I heard the last bit. I heard the seconds.
All right.
I apologize for going over.
We're going to get this right. Ms. Darden Cintron, the same question is being posed to you.
Okay. I think the important hard skills that I have is a lot of the experience and the training that I have received. I currently am a part of my school's administrative team as the dean. So we always work together. We plan together, all the things that we need to do as an administrative team. I think I am well trained in a lot of different techniques. Even before I was on the road to being a school counselor, I've had training with therapeutic crisis interventions in schools, all sorts of restorative practices, different things like that that enhance the work that we do in our school. In our schools. I also had the ability to work directly for a superintendent where I was his family leadership coordinator, working with 35 schools, helping them to increase their family engagement and increase their leadership and activism. As far as soft skills, I would say those soft skills I think are really critical, important in the boardroom is being open, honest, being and also being a team player, understanding that we are working together as a board, and that when the majority makes a decision, it's everyone's decision. We come out, we support that decision, and we work to not to be divisive in our meetings, that as a board, we come together no matter what that decision is, and you move forward with it. I think that's a pretty critical skill, especially with the board, because we are going to make a lot of
15 seconds.
Because we are going to make a lot of decisions, and it's important that as a team we come together even when we may not agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. Lazari.
Hi. So as I mentioned before, I do have a degree in higher education and student affairs, worked in admissions and academic advising. And I think a lot of those skills carry through. With the admissions, I worked with a really diverse group of applicants, everywhere from, highly privileged students coming from, some of the best high schools to transfer students from community colleges. So sort of skills in working with different types of people, learning how to assist them in different ways. I also had to learn to communicate with a lot of different people. I am, a good communicator. I know how to write. I know how to speak well. I've also been the representative for multiple colleges, multiple programs in public. And I think that skill comes to play with the board. We are representing the district and we want to do so in a positive, professional manner. I have the skills to do so. Prior to my higher education career, I also worked in entertainment. So I was acting and worked as a commercial casting director. And sort of the skills that I learned through that are listening, responding, taking and giving constructive feedback, and sort of learning what to do with that, being open, being flexible. These are also sort of soft skills in a way too. And as far as more soft skills, I would say I'm definitely a consensus builder. I've worked on various boards before, and I'm currently active on a couple.
15 seconds.
And I have follow through. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from, wrong thing, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you guys again so much. So I actually will start with soft skills and speak to the fact that I'm an extremely diplomatic individual. I tend to get along with just about anybody. I mentioned earlier that I traveled the country for the better part of 2 years. I sat at the bar with people with all different political stripes, of all different colors and shapes and sizes and everything. And while I ate my meal, whoever was to the left or right of me was going to get a phenomenal conversation. I walked away with lots of hugs and made people cry. I love to connect with people. So that's the soft skill. And the other is giving people the benefit of the doubt. Like we here at on the board are folks are not infallible. So people are going to make mistakes, and I tend to try not to cast aspersions about why and how they made said mistakes. When thinking more about the hard skills, I've studied for a long time as a kind of budding futurist. I'm paying attention to the various different technologies that are driving innovation in the world, and unfortunately, school is simply not keeping up. I've been in sales most of my life and selling technology. I've had to connect with people on a very regular basis and work to influence people to make decisions that are something that we can come to a consensus on. So those are the skills that I hope to bring to the board, and I just look forward to working with the team.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Ms. Fallon.
Hi. I had a BS and a master's in business administration. And in my working life, I was a revenue manager for the Middle East and Africa region, managing the back office team. I purposely created a diverse team because I believed that we couldn't understand our customer if we didn't reflect who our customer was. So I had multiple nationalities and languages and religions and any kind of person who would give that added value to our team. I encouraged them to apply and hired quite a few people who were young and talented and willing to give of themselves. So being that they were all young, I had to mold this team and train them. So I am used to bridging those differences and teaching them and communicating to them what they needed to do so that they could relate to the salespeople and to our clients directly. So that's a little bit about my past working life. Part of my job also required a lot of, I have an eye for detail, I'm thorough, I'm used to multitasking, juggling multiple priorities and from multiple stakeholders, and communicating with them both written and verbally. And then just thinking of my past PTA experience and work with the board here, doing everything from working with, when we were at Leaf Jackson, we started a PTA newsletter. So we put that out so we could improve our communications with the parents, organized multiple events. So we were trying to build the community because
15 seconds.
Okay, great. I do my homework, I listen, I take on action points. There's no talking without doing, and I'm a doer and not a talker, and I want to move the conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fallon. Ms. Washington?
Okay, I'll start with my hard skills. I'm a certified English teacher 7 through 12, certified school building leader. I'm also certified and I have my school district leadership certification. I actually was able to write visions and missions for schools. I actually was able to do school budgets. I am an adjunct professor at Manhattanville College. I am spearheading the instructional leadership team at my school, the Walt Disney Magnet School. I am on the district level equity team where we use improvement science so that we could bring awareness for culturally responsive, sustaining curriculum. I am a mentor of girls. I have a mentoring program. I'm a chaplain of my sorority. I'm an elder at my church. My soft skills, as many of you know, I am a team builder. I love to bring the spirit to the team. Many people know from my past employment, we wore t-shirts and we did spirit days. I'm really about human connection and bringing things just to make people feel good about the process. My other soft skills is I'm a collaborator. I love to collaborate with many people. I believe that working together is something that I do really well. And I think that's really all of my soft skills. So I'm going to stop now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams?
Thank you. My previous tenure as a commissioner in the Fairview Fire Department was crucial for me to learn and understand municipal finance. And it taught me the importance of being judicious with budgets so as not to be a burden to taxpayers. And that's something that I brought to the school district when I joined the board in 2003. It also helped me to understand the need to stay vigilant about the town's decision, the town's financial decision, in order to protect the financial integrity of the board or of the district. And hopefully I'll get to speak about more of that later. Also, my years as a journalist was also very helpful. I worked for the Worcester Telegram and Gazette years ago, and among the things that I covered was education and school boards, and that was the first instance of piquing my interest about one day becoming a school board member. My soft skills, well, being married and father of 2 children are my primary soft skills. And if some of you think that I'm a little rough around the edges now, you should have seen me before Gail got to me. That's my wife. Also, being the father of 2 sons opened up and helped me learn about so many other children in the district. The other thing is my integrity and standing on principle. I never thought I'd ever say that I agree with Liz Cheney, but Liz Cheney has taken a principled view in her role in the Republican Party. She disagreed with Donald Trump and the rest of what the Republican Party is doing. And in some ways, Liz and I are in agreement. Liz and I are in agreement there. I will never compromise my integrity as a result of a group or board or party doing something that I think is wrong. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the second question, and that second question will be started by Ms. Darden Cintron. The question is, how does a school board member's role and responsibility differ from the role of the superintendent?
The role of the superintendent is to handle all of the day-to-day, the everyday in our district's business. That's just a simple way of saying that. And the board's role is to have oversight over that. The superintendent mainly makes recommendations to the board, provides, their feedback and their feedback on those recommendations. And then the board comes together, we listen, we hear, and then we make decisions about those. So that's really the simplest part. Simplifying it, it really is the superintendent is the everyday, day-to-day decision maker, and the board provides oversight. Thank you.
Ms. Lazari, the same question.
Yes. Well, I thank you, Antoinette, for doing such a good job with that. Yeah, my understanding is similar, that the Board of Ed is sort of the top layer, providing the vision, providing the overall sort of final decision making on everything. The superintendent is, again, making all the day-to-day decisions. And I think it's important that the board not try to micromanage what the superintendent is doing. She was hired for a reason, and I think we need to trust her experience in the educational field. But at the same time, since we, the board, are charged with overseeing the education for our district, we need to make sure we agree. And I think there's certainly room to ask questions in a very respectful way, just to sort of learn more from each other, learn more about what her vision would be and how that sort of jibes with the board. I think it's the board's responsibility to have a vision for the district, and not just a short-term vision. I want to see it go more than 5 years. I want to see a 10-year, a 15-year, a 20-year vision. That is the responsibility of the board. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, same question.
Yeah, I believe the previous candidates, kind of really summed it up, pretty well. The only word that I would like to add to it is partnership. This Ms. Iverson has been extended. Dr. Iverson, my apologies, has been extended this position, and I think that she is going to be an incredible partner with the district, as well as long as the board acts like a partner to her. So it's my sincere hope that that's what happens moving forward.
Okay. Ms. Vallon.
Well, I'll say ditto, but I'm not going to keep it that short. I'm just going to add on that I think the superintendent is the COO, the one who implements our educational strategies, and the board should be setting policy and overseeing finances. But I think it's also the job of the board to ask questions, to compare outcomes, and to provide feedback between, not one way, but both ways, between the community and the superintendent. Otherwise, I agree with everything that everyone else has said. We definitely, it's, as Antoinette has mentioned in various meetings and the other board members, 2021 is the time to set our new vision, mission, and goals. So it'll be one of the first jobs I think that the community and the board will do with the new superintendent. Thank you.
Ms. Washington, same question.
So the difference between the superintendent and board members. Board members adopt and approve. Superintendents recommend. Superintendent, like Ms. Valens said, basically, she's the CEO. She evaluates and she observes her staff, and she works with her staff to really provide sound data that can help the students achieve grade level proficiency. So I won't just talk jargon, so that all of our students can be on grade level when it comes to reading and math. The Board of Education, once we adopt or approve, we also advocate. You might advocate to the local politicians. You might advocate just in other realms or other spaces that we need to advocate for our school district. And we also communicate to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Mr. Williams, same question.
Yes, thank you. Well, a lot has been said already that I'm going to unfortunately have to repeat. The superintendent is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district. The school board selects the superintendent, selects policy, approves the budget, offers oversight, and sets the vision and goal. Unfortunately, too often, not only in our district, but certainly our district, we've had instances where board members want to also play superintendent, and that is never a good thing. Unfortunately, also, there might be a greater propensity for that to happen when you have a preponderance of educators on the board. Obviously, they've gone to school, they've learned things, but the superintendent may have one way of doing things, and board members, particularly those with education backgrounds, could pose a problem. And I think one way to make sure that we ensure against that is to make sure you elect a board that does not have a majority of educators on it. You want diversity. We talk about diversity all the time, about racial diversity, but diversity exists in a number of ways. And one thing that we have to do with this board is to make sure we have a number of not only racially diverse viewpoints, but also intellectually and professionally diverse viewpoints. And one way to do that is to ensure that you pick one person who was a former journalist and a marketing professional. You maybe have one person who's an educator. You have somebody who was a finance professional. You have somebody who's a consultant. And so forth and so on. Diversity is the key here to make sure that the balance of superintendent board member balance stays intact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bitterman, same question.
There have been incredible responses as it relates to the relationship between the superintendent and the board. You know, we talk about that as a partnership, but in fact, in many ways, it's not. It's a hierarchy. And the reality is the superintendent works for the Board of Education, who works for the community in which they are elected. And unfortunately, in this district in recent years, those roles of who works for whom seem to have gotten lost. And it is time that we restore that hierarchy, that understanding that the board brings policy and oversight, fiscal oversight as it relates to budgetary issues, curriculum oversight as it relates to, are we receiving the data that is beneficial to us as decision makers? These are the things that we need to restore to this district if we're going to move forward as we all hope to do so. It should never be a situation where educators are feared on a school board. Educators should be celebrated on a school board because there is an understanding of how policy is translated into action, how it is received by those educators being asked to implement those decisions, how it impacts student learning, and how it impacts all. And to have that, that's not something to be afraid of. That is something to be celebrated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to the next question. And how's the whole 15-second time up thing working? Okay, because I did do this, if this will help, so I don't have to feel like I'm interrupting you. Can
I
we go?
love it, Kay. I love it.
Are we all in agreement instead of
Yes,
me?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, that'll work.
Speak clearly, you'll know. Okay,
Excellent.
all right. We're gonna get this right. Okay, so the next question, we'll start with Ms. Lazari. What should the school board do to educate all members of the community about the needs of the school district so school board decisions and recommendations are supported?
So I think there's a lot that the school board can do to openly communicate with the community. It's something as easy as having a social media presence of their own. Right now we have one through the school, but the board doesn't. And I think that's a quick and easy way to sort of get out to parents and community members what's happening. I think that the public comment period can be made longer again. It used to be 4 minutes and now it's 2 minutes. And I know that some community members have felt that that's kind of artificially short. So I think it would be easy to put that back and sort of restore that trust. You know, I think that maybe something like having a Spanish language interpreter available. If a Spanish speaking parent wants to come speak, you know, they may have to sign up in advance so it can be arranged, but I think that's a way to really start reaching out to the community. You know, I think we just want to be more welcoming and we want to do our best to openly communicate. We want to sort of grow our community. We want to invite everyone in. We don't want to be secretive. Obviously, there is executive session where certain things have to happen. But I think there is opportunity there to grow and to allow our community and all of our stakeholders, our parents, as well as our community members and our students to feel heard. And I think those are just a few of the ways that we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Thomas, the same question?
Yeah, I certainly would start, you know, tactically with things like social media, but even more than that, I would go back to the idea of kind of student voice and choice. I feel like every decision we make is driven by students. If we get them more involved with these discussions and more involved, you know, maybe they'll talk to their parents who will then come and get involved. When parents know what's important to their kids, you know, they step up a little bit more. So I think that would be a great strategy for a better way to engage our community. Perhaps doing some type of community forums, something where we take a look at each of the various different areas where we're either challenged or even the things that are going great in the district, and we bring together people to talk specifically about that. Summertime is coming up. We got, you know, Yosemite Park, right, you know, right down the block. You know, I volunteer to come out there and put wings on the grill if people come and have conversations around this stuff. And my food is good. Ask about me. So it's stuff like that. Let's do some things to put smiles on people's faces. And with the smiles on their faces, they'll be a little bit more open to listening to some of the things that we have to say as we listen to what it is that they have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Again, the question is, what should the school board do to educate all members of the community about the needs of the school district so school board decisions and recommendations are supported? Next, we will hear from Ms. Vallon.
Thank you. As part of the, the Community Engagement Committee combined with the Communications Committee this year, and one of the recommendations that's come from that committee is to get its own for the board to have its own e-list, so that community members would get email blasts directly from the board and hear news that way. I think once that's put in place, I would love to do quarterly or trimester, 3 times a year, surveys of the community to see how we're doing, just to get some feedback so it's not a one-way communication. I'm going to piggyback on Jamal. I'd also thought of something similar. I was more along the lines of like a coffee hour. I love your idea of putting some wings on the grill. But getting out to the parks and where people are, not always having our meetings at the schools. I know the CEC has tried to meet at libraries and at the center, but I think even if it's not a full committee, having different members of the board go out and have a meet and greet at area parks while the ball games are going on or something. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington.
All right. So first and foremost, I think we should kind of continue to use a hybrid model. We should never go back to the old normal. We should definitely go to the new normal. And when I talk about hybrid models, we should continue to use our virtual platforms and our in-person, as you know, most of us continue to get vaccinated. We should use what we have already, like our CEC meetings and our fiscal, well, our facilities meetings that we have. So in those meetings, maybe there could be a scheduled time so that we can discuss what the needs are, and then people can have time to really speak about some of their concerns. So I know there's always agendas, but maybe the agendas can be that part of the discussion. Also, we can use the website that we have already. I know there's a board page, and maybe we can create a library of Loom videos and Screencastify videos. And what I mean is, first of all, we need to even know what are the responsibilities and restrictions of a board member. I know Mr. Williams and Ms. Darden, Cintron, and Mr. Bitterman, they know what they can talk about and what they can't. So maybe if we create a library of certain things that at any time, anyone can go and say, I just don't understand. Let me find out about this policy. Yes, it's in writing, but it's also in video. That's just some ideas.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yes, thank you. So I want to thank everybody else who's already spoken and talked about some of the things that are already in place, because as the longest serving board member here, I was around when there was nothing like this, and I either helped spearhead some of these changes or certainly supported them, like the Community Engagement Committee. I was here when it first started out at my former colleague, Monique Haygood's home, and it has somewhat evolved into something a little different, but that was the genesis of it, and I certainly was a big supporter there. Basically, I'm just going to say this: we just need to, for the most part, work along the edges of what we already have. Although Jamal's idea of the grilling some wings, that's a good one. We had not thought about that one, so I'm not taking credit for that. But all of the other things that we've mentioned, social media, we have that. We have one of the best social media platforms of any school district that I've seen. And I've seen a lot of them because as a member of the Westchester Putnam School Board Association, I get to see other people's facilities and infrastructure, and ours is far and away the best. We have open committee meetings that people can attend. We have meetings that we, of course, because of the coronavirus, we have stepped up our remote attendance of these meetings, and that's something that we can do. But the infrastructure is there. It's a function of what myself and what Dr. Chase and what some of my colleagues have done in the past. The only thing that I would say is with regard to the board member portion of that, that's important, and I agree with it, but it has to be done by all of the board members. And in the case of this year, that has not been the case. There has been pronouncements by the leadership of the board without knowledge and understanding from the colleagues, and that can't happen. If we're going to speak as a board, then we have to be informed as a board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bitterman.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here with communication. I think one of the simplest things we could do to start off in a really concrete way would be to release draft minutes there are many districts in Southern Westchester, and what do following board meetings? They release the minutes. Why? What's said in a meeting? Not all people can attend these meetings. Not all people, have that opportunity. They have commitments, they have work, they have family. This is a difficult commitment to make. So what can we do? We can provide them with minutes. Another thing we could do is to reconsider what that communication committee that was founded back on my previous tenure, what its intention was. It was intended as a committee of parents and teachers and administrators and board members to work together to address just those topics. How could we improve communication from one to the other? There are board members who are still on the board who remember my push to bring our meetings to the different schools. And that was a terrific success. The idea that we could come into the community at Highview and come into the schools at Bailey and come in and meet the people there and visit with the students and have an opportunity to do that, to be seen in each school area. I think that was a tremendous success, and I hope that will always continue. I do want to say that communication is as simple as responding to emails. Communication is as simple as calling someone back. Communication is making sure that a mailbox is not full. Those are the kinds of things that people want and deserve of their board and their administrators. And we can make those changes. They can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Darden Cintron.
Okay, some board members may know I've been talking about this for quite a while. One of the things that I wanted to do, even before being board president, my idea was to have sort of like a community roundtable where we invite our community, each board member sits at a different table and we talk about the different perspective of the work of the board. I think it would be a great idea because it allows people to engage with board members, but it also allows for the community to get an understanding of how our board works, how boards work in general. I say that because when you go to a lot of the different NSBE trainings, there's a training there and it's really good. And to me, it's more of like generic board training, but then there are things that are really specific to your district that really also is important for people to participate into. So that's one of the things that I would like to see happen. And I think it will provide opportunities for a lot of learning within our community. Some other things, like I started this year, a board newsletter. I think that's great to continue to do something like that because we are also participating in providing information directly from the board. I am going to steal, I always say this, Jeff Barnes' idea. The first time I ever heard it was Parent University. I think that's something that should come back to our school district. It's something that can be used in a variety of ways, whether we're educating parents about a new program, whether we are educating our community as a whole on an event or some sort of collaboration that we would like to do together with our community. So those are some of the ideas that I think that we should employ. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to the fourth question. And that fourth question is, how should a school board member deal with a conflict of interest when voting on school board matters? This is for you, Mr. Thomas.
In terms of a conflict of interest, I imagine that they should recuse themselves of any decision making on a particular topic. That's just about it.
Simple one. All right, Ms. Vallon.
I agree with the idea of recusal. I think it gets a little tricky depending on what the topic is as to how far back of a step someone might need to take. So that gets pretty specific. I have nothing more to add. Recusal is the best option if there's a conflict of interest. And declaring that to the public, why there is a recusal, that there is a conflict of interest. You need to be transparent with why you're not participating in the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington.
I agree with our respective candidates, but also you can use the power of abstaining. But I definitely like what Ms. Valen said about being transparent.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
I think Jamal summed it up very well. The only other thing I would add, and this comes from my experience and perspective, obviously the board has an attorney. If there is a question about whether or not you should vote on a particular issue, you can contact the attorney and get some insight from that person. Also, NYSBA, New York State School Board Association, they have attorney services that board members can avail themselves to, and you can get some direction in that from that avenue as well.
Okay, Mr. Bitterman.
You know, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously, recusal where necessary is the key. Transparency as to why is the key. I think the reality of the situation is that if, you know, without those two, without transparency, without the acknowledgement that at times there may or may not be a conflict, I think that we get lost in the weeds. Another thing that I would like to say is that it's one of the reasons why it's so important that the board communicate well with each other and with the community and with the superintendent. It is that partnership, that understanding that there are times when a person should step back, and that willingness to step back and not let ego or other aspects of one's, you know, stance on a position interfere with that, you know, what is in the best interest of kids. So you guys all killed it with the response about the recusal and the honesty and the open transparency. So I'm going to end with that.
Ms. Darden Cintron?
Short and sweet, recusal and being transparent about why. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari?
Well, I agree with everything that's already been said. Definitely recusal, letting the board and the public know why. And I would just want to add that I think every board member should think carefully. If you do have a specific connection to a topic or to a person or a policy, you know, just be really thinking about whether it is fair for you to participate. And I think the suggestion of talking to the attorney or the New York State Board is a good one. Thanks.
All right.
Okay, how are we doing? Do we need a 5-minute break? How are we feeling? We're feeling okay? You want to keep going through? All right, let's keep it rolling.
All right, so we're gonna, go ahead.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right, here we go. So the first person to answer this question will be Ms. Fallon. Should a school board member be allowed to publish a dissenting opinion like the U.S. Supreme Court? If not, what should they do? I'll repeat. Should a school board member be allowed to publish a dissenting opinion like the U.S. Supreme Court? If not, what should they do? Ms. Fallon.
So I recently attended the Westchester Putnam prospective school board member training and learned there what I'd suspected, which is that once a decision is made by the Board of Education as a whole, each board member needs to support that decision. So technically, no, you should not publish a separate opinion like the United States Supreme Court would do, for the analogy. I think it's the responsibility of the board members to support that decision, but in leading up to that decision, I do think there needs to be a public conversation if the topic so warrants, so that the community can understand why those decisions were made and what the debate is, if the topic warrants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington.
Ms. Valen, you did a great answer. But I think that's what executive session is for. You have a certain amount of individuals. It could be 7, it could be 9, whatever your school board is, and you go back and you have your opinions there. And that's what, the beautiful thing about being a resident of the United States of America, the democratic process, majority wins. So we're not always going to agree, but we have to respect what our forefathers fought for, this democratic process. And we have to, really understand it and know that we have a gift, to have this process. So Ms. Valen, you definitely answered it, but that's what I believe executive session is for, to kind of air those things out and do what needs to be done.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. In theory, the Westchester Putnam School Board Association's position is the correct one. In practice, however, it does not hold up. And I thank you, Kay and David, for that question, because in past years, I have actually cited the Supreme Court, because how many times have we read in a 5-4 decision? And you know what? In a 5-4 decision, the world goes on, the United States keeps operating, and people move on. So in theory, I could understand where West Putt is coming from, but I agree that people should air their positions. Conversations can happen in closed session, and obviously a vote will occur afterwards. But, one of the candidates talked about our forefathers, creating an environment where we come together. Well, my forefathers created an environment where we get into good trouble when there's a problem. And when I see a problem, when I see something that compromises my integrity, I will never sit quietly, because my forefathers, the forefathers that I know about, the real freedom fighters, they're the ones who spoke up. And they spoke up at great expense to themselves. And that's the tradition that I come from and that I continue to honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bitterman?
We serve as trustees in a room where our community is not invited to have conversations that impact the lives of children and adults in our community. Therefore, we have to earn that respect, that trust, and we do that because we have the understanding that the conversation itself cannot be shared, must not be shared, to protect the rights of children, to protect the rights of adults, to protect the rights of both employees and others in our community. And therefore, no, they should not have that opportunity to air those grievances out loud. On the other hand, there are conversations that certainly need to take place in public, that need where that conversation is permitted in open session. That is where, absolutely in the conversation, there should be disagreement, because, by the way, disagreement shows point of view, and it shows curiosity, and it shows the willingness to listen, and that's part of what our district is looking for. But then at the end of the day, come together, we vote as a board, we vote individually, but we come together as a board. And when that involves executive session, that is a sacred trust, and that trust must always be respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Darden Cintron.
Just like the majority of everyone has said here, no, you're not allowed to have those conversations. It's almost every training that's discussed as a board. When you go to those trainings, I think what's really important is that you have to create an environment where even when we disagree, we still respect each other. We may not be on the same page or have the same want, but we've heard each other. We've had robust dialogue so that it can help inform your own personal decision, and you can sit well with that, whether you are a part of the majority or you're a part of the minority. I think that's really important, and that really helps boards be effective and work together, even despite their own differences. When you respect a decision by the majority and that you then go out and carry out that decision as a board together. So I think it's a big no-no to not to support a majority decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari.
Thank you for this question. I think it is actually really interesting. So I think that a lot of things are happening in open session, right? And if you have a dissenting opinion, then there are questions you can ask publicly to sort of elicit more information, get people to think about things in a different way. And if you're taking a public vote, then, you know, essentially that vote is your dissenting opinion. You know, if it's an executive session item, then you're not as free to talk about that. You know, if anything is happening behind closed doors, I think you are bound to be, you know, silent about that. And I think that's really important because you do have to have that trust among the board. And, you know, as much as publishing a dissenting opinion sounds intriguing, that's not currently the rules, and we have to respect what that is. They're there for a reason.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I guess everyone's covered this, you know, a bunch at this point. I think that I'll just have to, if there are dissenting opinions, you know, I'll put them in writing ahead of time. So that's how I'll have to address it.
Okay. Thank you. You're up.
Okay, next question. We'll start with Ms. Washington. What steps should the school board take to make our district more inclusive to members of the LGBTQ+ community?
I'm glad you asked that question. I think you know, there are a lot of state laws, especially in education around that. So I think when it comes to that, it really goes with the superintendent and what's being done in the school district. I'm not really sure as if what the Board of Education's responsibility. I have been a member of Greenburgh Central School District for a while, like as an employee, and then I was as a community member, and that never seemed to be an issue. So I'm kind of taken aback by the question. It just never seemed to be an issue in Greenburgh. So we've been very inclusive, and I know there's some things with education that the superintendent will have to deal with, but as a Board of Education, that kind of has been what Greenburgh has been made of. So I think that's my answer.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think that certainly the board, from the board's perspective, we obviously have to follow the laws of New York State, and New York State has, if not the most inclusive set of laws to protect the rights of the LG, I'm going to mess up the acronym, of that community. And I know that we have followed it. From a personal standpoint, I know a previous board member was a part of that community. She was integrated and welcomed into, certainly to the board by myself and even my colleagues at the time. And I almost, it was never an issue. You know, as I said, I have two sons who have gone through the district. You know, I graduated from high school years ago, and certainly during those days, people from that community, they were not welcome to be free to be themselves. I bring up my sons because in speaking with them, they talk naturally about their friends who were part of that community as if it didn't matter, because it didn't matter. And part of that is we've all grown, we've all come to understand how to behave and how to act. And our district certainly has made it I hope as easy as any place else to make people from that community feel welcome and comfortable. And as a board, the best that we can do is to continue to support whatever legislation, we continue to support, to love people, number one, and then continue to support to follow the laws of the state and of the United States. Thank you.
Mr. Bitterman.
Okay, there's a lot here. One of the things that I think we need to understand is that when we educate children, we want to educate, and it may sound cliche, the whole child, each child, for who they are. Years ago, these conversations would be taking place at the high school level. They moved back into the middle school level, and they're coming in the elementary levels now as well. Having services available for all students, I mean, especially after this pandemic, but for students who have questions, places where resources available so that they can seek help and learn and celebrate who they are and feel good about themselves in a climate where maybe they have questions and they don't have understanding of the changes that are going on in their lives. And because this is happening at a younger and younger age, those students, in many ways, those children are not yet developmentally prepared for the changes that they're experiencing, and we must have the services available for them. We need to make sure that we have that, that guidance, those shining lights that they can look to for guidance. Perhaps that comes from working with high school students and having those high school students, spread that message and shine that light so that those students are made to feel welcome each and every day in their schools and in their own skin. I would also say that there are other things we can talk about on a practical level, the development of gender neutral bathrooms. That is a very proactive and simple thing that a district can do. You don't have to make every bathroom gender neutral, but you can certainly make a couple in each building so that somebody is aware that there is a place where they can go and be comfortable. And I think that, so on the one hand, we need to look at the whole child. On the other hand, there are some practical things that we could do right away to create the environment of inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Darden Cintron.
Okay, I would agree with most of what everyone has said so far. I would say, again, just making sure that we are implementing board policies, that we create board policies as protection for students that identify as LGBTQ, and that we also provide opportunities for our community as a whole to learn about that community. I think it's really important that we really essentially, we should be doing this for all students, for all of our community, is respect for all. That should be something that we are all committed to, respecting all perspectives of people, whether it's about race, whether it's about religion, whether it's about their sexuality. That is what we should be pushing and making sure that we do really well. Things are changing every year. We're saying LGBTQ tonight, but there's an I and an A, and every time we turn around, there's something else added to that because there is another perspective that we must not forget. So I think it's just really important to make sure that we have the pulse on the change of all communities and that we continue to be dedicated to be inclusive to everyone. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Lazari.
So I think that, the board's primary responsibility here is to ensure that our policies are inclusive, that our policies take LGBTQ plus children, staff members, and community members into account. It's as simple as making sure that that's part of the education. There should be classes, there could be clubs, there should be education for the parents that they can take part in. I definitely agree with the gender neutral bathroom suggestion as being really necessary to have at least one spot in each school so that everyone feels comfortable. Another thing I was thinking of are pronouns. We shouldn't just assume that everyone goes, by the she, he type of pronouns, and that can be something that we're asking. Overall, what I've personally seen in the early childhood education is that they really are the teachers and the staff members really are fostering a community of building tolerance and of teaching that every family and every person is different. And I just think we want to sort of continue on that and continue keeping this group of students and, you know, every group of students in mind as we move forward.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, everybody touched on all of the major points. I mean, most of the challenges that would come in relation to this conversation are with the adults and not with kids. My daughter's 23 and just got out of school, and anything that remotely smells of not being supportive of that community, she is all over it. So I know the younger kids even more so. So I guess for teachers and stuff, perhaps there could be some type of professional development and administrators as well. Perhaps the board needs to take a look at what everybody's understanding is of the LGBTQ plus community. But the reality is as far as I can see, that our community is extremely supportive in this area. And like every other group of students, we need to do everything we can to fully address those students' social and emotional needs.
Ms. Valen?
I think everyone touched on a little bit of what I wanted to say, so I'll just summarize my points by saying that of the students I've met and the families I know, we are a caring community. And one of the benefits of being a smaller school district is the class sizes are small, the school is small, so everyone feels like they're looking out for each other. There are the exceptions, but in general, it's a very welcoming atmosphere. As far as what the board could do, I think we could continue to support our social emotional programs that are in the schools. I think, referring back to what someone else says, I think it's a matter of teaching and valuing differences overall. And this is one of many that can be discussed. With the SEL, if we continue rolling out our mentoring programs so that each student has an adult they feel comfortable talking to, that they feel valued by. At the younger ages, we can continue our book clubs and our reading groups and make sure that we have books that are themed on diversity and differences and acceptance, so that those conversations can happen naturally when discussing those books in a classroom. Again, the gender neutral bathroom idea I think is fantastic, which means we need to make sure we have space in our buildings. Let's get moving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question, and how are we doing? Do we need a break? I'm about to enter onto question number 7. Keep it rolling. Okay, here we go. Question number 7, and we're going to start with Mr. Williams. What is your vision of what the school board should do to halt the current bright flight from GCSD? I'll repeat. What is your vision of what the school board should do to halt the current bright flight from GCSD? And Mr. Williams, you'll start this question.
Sure, thank you. Bright flight. I don't like that term. And I start off by saying that because I have used that term in the past. And I regret using that term because we have a lot of bright students here in GCSD. Parents make their decision to move their children for their own reasons. And as I'm fond of saying, some of my best friends are parents who have taken their children out of the district, and I've never had a conversation with them about that because that's their business. And it could be any number of reasons. The thing that we need to do, and what we've done, is to present the best program, academic program that we can for our children. And I think we've done that. there's always room for improvement in anything. Whatever college you go to, you know, Harvard is always toying with their curriculum. All institutions toy with their curriculum. But I think we've done some really great things. Getting International Baccalaureate K through 12, fantastic. The World Languages program that features Mandarin, fantastic. Adding the OUT program so that very bright students can have an environment where they excel is a good program. These are the things that we can do, but we've done those things. The decision for people to leave is a personal decision. We have bright students here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bitterman.
There are many programs. Absolutely. Our district has the OUT program is very promising. I'm excited about the idea of growing our IB program, something that we've been talking about since my previous tenure on the board. This year with our young 16 group, our Genesis group, these are things to celebrate. And what we now need is to develop those IB curricula even further. Let's do staff development towards bringing in more subjects. The more we can bring in, the more courses we can offer, the more children will want to participate, and that will have a ripple effect throughout the district. I also think that there are other things that we can do. We can start looking at the data and showing the data publicly, making sure that people understand that our students are achieving great things. We can analyze programs and see, well, what's working, what's not working, and how can we best allocate resources for those programs to help those students, those high achievers, as well as all students. Because isn't that really what we want to focus on? All students reaching their own best great potential. And I think that that's really where we need to maintain our focus. On my previous tenure on the board, we expanded our music program, and I think that was something to be celebrated. And I think that these are things that we need to look at, what we can do moving forward. But I think we're off to a good start. There are things that definitely need to be looked at. You know, let's study the data. Let's ask parents. You know, we should have that communication. How can we, you know, what is it that you want? Oh, and one last thing. I think we need to talk about college retention. It's not enough to be able to celebrate the fact that our students are getting into great schools, but how great would it be able to say, not only are they getting in, but look how they're thriving once they're there. So let's take that conversation one step further. We're getting into great schools, and we're staying and being successful in them. That will bring back, and that will encourage them to stay.
Ms. Darden Cintron.
Okay, thank you. I agree with Terry in regards to the term bright flight. We have amazing students here. We have students who have been to a variety of colleges, students and universities, students who have gone onto the military, students who have started their own businesses. So we have talented and bright students here already. I think some of the things that we can do, I think overall for our entire community, is making sure that we continue to, number one, evaluate our programs for their effectiveness, make improvements where we need to, and share those results every single year, multiple times a year, so that all of our families and all of our community as a whole know what we're doing, how we're doing it, where we are succeeding, and where we need improvement. I think that is really important. I also think it's really important for us to also highlight to our community, whether they have parents in the whether they have students in the district or not. That is information that we should be sharing as a whole. We should be discussing the things that we're doing well, the things that our students are doing. We should do, I think we can do a better job of recruiting our graduates, keeping track of what they're doing, how successful they are being, and bringing that back to our district. We should be highlighting more and more the students that have gone on to bigger and better things, and they're having success in their lives. I think that if we can keep education at the forefront, improving it, and also sharing our successes, that will shine a light on how great our school district is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari.
So I agree with you about the term. I don't like it, but I think retention of families is a huge issue. Our enrollment has been declining, and we need to figure out ways to stop that. I think first you go to open communication, and that's, communication from all the principals, from the board, from the superintendent, frequent. Enrollment drops off every time a student switches schools. So every couple of years, since we're on the Princeton plan. I think it's really important that we get in there early with parents and are sort of introducing them to the next school, making them feel comfortable. There's a lot of different orientations we can do. We can, do buddy programs. There's all kinds of things. We can have more community forums where we're meeting with the community as a whole. I also think improving the academics is definitely a way to do that. People see the numbers and they get scared. Even though we have all these great programs, we need to highlight them more to the community, as Antoinette said. I think there's a lot we can do with that. Again, that's more communication, getting it out there. Greenburgh should know everything that is going on at GCSD because there are some great things. And last but not least, we haven't talked about this yet, but the buildings, we need a plan to fix the buildings. Families come in and, we hear about what's going on at all the different buildings. This building's 80 years old and it's never been fixed. And, such and such is falling apart. And, we need to have tours. We need to see what's going on. We need to know that there is a plan and that our children will be safe at these schools. Because I think this is a real concern and probably the biggest thing facing our district right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges that we see are a matter of perspective, and we need to start the process of shifting that perspective. And I think the biggest advocates we can have in doing so is our students. If we show students a plan to build and grow, our facilities, as Chris just mentioned, as Sarah just mentioned, they will start to get more excited. If we start to, look at how we kind of reimagine education, one of the biggest things I saw as I traveled across the country from kids is that they are simply bored. And bored kids don't go to their parents and say, hey, Ma, I love going to school. Yeah, I want to stay in this district. So if we start doing things like focusing in on mastery learning, where instead of when a kid gets a 50 on the test, they feel bad about it, you say, oh my goodness, you got 50 right. Let's go about the business of getting the other 50 right. You have students that will walk home excited, feeling good, feeling like they want to tell their parents that I like this place. That is going to influence their parents to believe the same. It'll influence their parents to come and engage with us in ways that perhaps they're not doing as much as we would like. So I think that's focusing and centering our attention on what students desire. Project-based learning is so important. If we get these kids excited about learning and developing a love of learning, then parents won't have any reason to say, you know what, let me pluck my kid out of the district. They'll be just fine or beyond fine with having kids stay in our district.
Thank you. Ms. Fallon.
Well, I think a lot of people have said the things I was thinking of as far as challenging our students through the Advanced Learner Program and having foreign language available to everyone from elementary on up. I think it's important. I'm so happy that we are now a K through 12 International Baccalaureate school. I've also advocated for that since my older child was in kindergarten. So yay, admin team who helped put that in place. What I'd like to see with that I think will help keep students challenged and feeling involved is something that Jamal just alluded to, and that's project-based learning. You take the IB, for example, we need to move that curriculum beyond just ticking boxes and saying we're following the program, and let's move that with some hands-on projects, some experiential learning, and really connecting that curriculum to the real world so that the students see the effects of sitting, listening, and reading and writing about a certain topic and seeing that put into action. We also have a fantastic campus. I mean, you can give the term place-based learning. Well, we've got a fantastic vernal pond, so many opportunities for biological observation. We have facilities that definitely need upgrading. We need better science labs. We need some infrastructure, although it's been improved for the new technological advances, but we also have this beautiful nature classroom, and some expansion on that will keep kids engaged, keep families engaged. The last thing I want to mention is keeping students in the district isn't just about the education. That's the main part. That's why we're here, but it's also about building community. So I want to say that we need to really rebuild the partnerships with our PTA, because for me, PTA has always been about, it's the arm of the it's the arm of the school district community that helps us build that community. If you don't have relationships with other students and other families, you're not going to feel comfortable, you're not going to feel engaged, you're not going to feel motivated, and you have no reason to stay. So people leave. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Washington.
Okay, so I believe the question said, what should we do about the current, right? Is that correct?
What is your vision of what the school board should do to halt the current bright flight from GCSD?
Thank you. So I believe the Board of Education should use the improvement science method, PDSA, which is Plan, Do, Study, Act. And what they could do is come up with some type of educational council where you involve all stakeholders, because don't we need to know why? You know, what's the reason why people are leaving? So if we use this, you have stakeholders, just like Mr. Thomas said, first students, parents, community members, realtors. You can have board members. You can have people that are parents, but maybe their children are at a private school. Bring us all together. And then with the school science improvement plan, you can start with like a fishbone. And the fishbone is just you throwing out reasons why you think people are leaving. But see, by the end of that fishbone, you really want to come up with a cycle one. You want to come up with a change idea. So one thing that might need to change. Some people are saying the facilities, you know, some people are saying different programs. But if you focus on that one cycle for 6 to 8 weeks, you start to fix anything that's internal that is keeping people from going to the next school. So if we don't start to see why, or what's the reason, or what our weaknesses are, and then add on to some of the strengths, then we're going to keep having the same conversation. Because I've heard this question for many years as a student, as a resident, community member, parent, the same question. We need to figure out what's really going on so that we can maybe hold on to some of our parents.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to question number 8. The question is, if a parent approaches you as a school board member with a problem they feel hasn't been addressed properly in their child's school, what action should you as a board member take? Mr. Bitterman, you have the first opportunity to answer this question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I'm okay, but thank you. I think the first thing that we would do, I think as our commitment to our administrators and our building leaders, is to simply say, you know, so have you reached out to the teacher? Have you reached out? What are the steps that you have already taken before reaching out to a board or to a central administrator? Many years ago, I pushed as a board member for a communication committee, and it was specifically intended when a parent reaches out to a member of our community, our school district, it is because they are feeling a crisis. They are feeling the stress of that. This is an urgency to them. And having an understanding of how that communication, what is the process, what is the hierarchy of reaching out, that is the key. So they know, and they've talked about how, you know, who do I go to and how can I help you? Mostly that's guiding them to the person who they have not yet reached out to. I would love to see a committee not a binding committee, not a contractual committee, a committee of all stakeholders getting together to talk about that hierarchy. Parents and teachers were on the same team, we're on the same page, but sometimes when they get a full mailbox, they don't feel that they're on the same page. When they reach out to a principal and there isn't that voice on the other side acknowledging that they're in a crisis and they need to be supported. You know, sometimes just having that message sent that, hey, you're in crisis, let us help you. This is what we're here for, to help your child. That reassurance, that to me is the most important thing that we can do. We can communicate that as board members. We can communicate that as as central district leaders, as building leaders, as teachers, as support personnel within a building. We are all here for them. We are on the same side. We are on the same team. And that message, that's exactly what would, not only would it benefit the child and the family and the parents and our stakeholders, but that's what benefits our community. If that's the message we're sending, I think we are off to, you know, great things.
Thank you. Ms. Darden Cintron.
Okay, thank you. I would say from the beginning, from being on the board from the very beginning, you are told that you need to listen, you know, have a listening ear to a parent, but you also need to make sure that they get in front of the proper person. So if a parent or a community member came to me with concern, I would, number one, figure out whether it needed to go to the teacher and make sure that they follow those steps. Whether it starts with the teacher, did you feel like you got any support? Did you go to the AP or to the principal? And then from there, you would move up the ladder. So I think it's really important for them to know the steps and the levels that a parent should also take. And then I think the other big thing is, the bigger part about it is I always like to inform the superintendent. So if I was told something, I would tell that person to go wherever they, you know, to go to that next level. And I would give the superintendent a heads up. Hey, I think you're going to hear about this. Just want to let you know, this is what I did. I told that parent to please reach out to the principal. So that's really how I've always operated. I try not to take anything on, or if I did hear something, and let's say that is directly for the superintendent, I will tell that person to do that. But then I will also give the superintendent a email to say, hey, you're going to be reached out. This is what's going on. So just so that that person is prepared. So I think it's really important just to guide the community member, but also provide any information to the person they will ultimately end up with so that they can be prepared to help and support that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari?
Yes, I think our first job is just to listen and yeah, to make sure that they have spoken to the right person. Did they talk to the teacher or the principal? You know, the next level up the chain, did they speak with the superintendent? Did they speak with the assistant superintendent? Just kind of making sure that they've spoken to the right person first. You know, if it's sort of a larger problem, then I would speak to the board president. I would also speak with the superintendent. And, you know, this is not in a board meeting. This is just, you know, through an email or over the phone. You know, you want to make sure that you are sort of following the proper chain of command. And the last thing I think you do is follow up with the parent or the community member again. You know, once you've sort of directed them in the right way, come back to them a week later or however, whatever makes sense, and say, you know, was this resolved for you? What happened? Is there anything else I can do for you? Because I think that follow through is what makes people really feel seen and heard. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, you're next.
So the first thing I do is express empathy. I imagine it would take you know, take a lot for somebody to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to pick up the phone or send an email out to a board member. You know, I'd express the curiosity around whatever the challenge is. And as I understand said challenge, as everyone else has said, direct them to the appropriate party. If it's something that is kind of needs the attention of the entire board, I, as quickly as possible, share that with my fellow board members. Particularly for myself, I'll be a young board member without as much experiences as others. So, getting some of the counsel from people who have been at this a little longer, and at the end of the day, it's just about making sure that person, walks away with the best possible solution. And I'd work to make sure that happens.
Okay, Ms. Vallon.
Again, I think everybody said pretty much what I was going to say. Definitely listening to understand what their concern is, and to try to figure out actually if there's something behind that concern. They might think that it's problem A, but they're really upset about problem B. So that's where listening really comes into play. I think the next step is then seeing if they contacted, the appropriate people. Did you talk to the teacher and the XYZ? As far as the practical comment that I'll add to this conversation, though, a lot of times people don't know who their resources are. They don't know who the school social worker is. They don't know who the school psychologist is. They maybe were pointed out to them at back to school night once, but you can't go on the website and find out who it is at a particular school. They don't know who to contact. So I think that's just a practical solution that we can put into place pretty quickly. And then, kind of like Antoinette was saying, if it was something I thought that would eventually end up with the superintendent, my job would be then to give them a heads up and or communicate with the board as needed. And then of course, follow up within a week or two to see if the parent feels the issue was resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington?
Well, everyone answered the question, but I will say, I would basically ask the parent, what do they feel like they need from me if I was the board member? What do you need from Kiana Washington? And just see what they feel like. Sometimes someone just wants to talk to you. Do you want me to contact the superintendent? Because sometimes they just want to just let you know what they're going through. So everybody will follow the same things everybody's saying, but if they're coming to you, there's some type of need. And I'm hoping that, like Chris Vallon said, through resources or whatever, I can at least feel what need needs to, at that time, needs to be filled. But like everyone else said, you would follow the protocol. But what do they need from me at that moment in time that they thought that they needed to reach out to me?
Okay, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. So I have been in this position before several times as a long time board member, and my response has been pretty much the same each time. I listen to the parent, and then I suggest that they call either the teacher or the building principal first. I determine where they are in the process and encourage them to follow the chain, which is to talk to your teacher first, talk to your child's teacher. If you don't get any satisfaction there, you then go to the principal, then you can escalate it to other parts of the administration. Depending on what the issue is, I also give the superintendent a heads up, because it's not, as a board member, my role to contact a teacher or a building principal. But if it's something that is serious enough, I contact the superintendent, because that's who I have the relationship with. One thing that I avoid doing early on is including board members on that, because for two reasons. When you do that, you could run the potential of getting involved in an investigation that you should not be involved in, as our training tells us. The other thing is it could be a potential violation of the open meetings law when you have everybody on an email that should, and the email shouldn't happen. But once we, again, depending on the situation, I would wait until a board meeting when we are in closed session. And if it is an issue that requires our attention, then I mention it to my colleagues. But sending an email is a no-no. Sending an email to the superintendent is okay, but copying your colleagues on it is a no-no.
Okay. Thank you. How are we feeling? We're gonna try to squeeze in one more question. Okay. And then we'll go to summations. So for this question, we are starting with Ms. Darden Cintron. Okay, so here's a question. Why should we trust that your decisions or recommendations will be in the best interest of the school district? I'll repeat it again. Why should we trust that your decisions or recommendations will be in the best interest of the school district? Okay, Ms. Darden Cintron.
Thank you. I would say, as a parent, I make decisions that are always in the best interest of my child. So that's reason one. I would say, as an educator, every single day, I work alongside my principal, my assistant principal, to make the best decision for all of our students. And as a sitting board member, the same goes there. I treat and I think about kids exactly how I would want my child treated and how I would want to guide and support and to help his success. If it's good for my kid, it's good for every single child in the Greenburgh Central School District. That is why you should trust that the decisions that I make are all about our children. Period, point blank. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari.
Yes, I am fully invested in the kids of Greenburgh. Every decision I make is for them, thinking about them, what would be best for them. That is my focus. That is why I want to run for the board. I feel that there is a time for change and that there have been a lot of distractions. And I want to sort of push all of that away, start fresh. My focus is our children and providing the best education that we can for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
So I think I mentioned earlier that I am affectionately known as Uncle Jamal by a bunch of little ones throughout this district. I love them very much, and I love this community. I think it was Whitney Houston who said that I believe the children are the future. I absolutely do. We all are getting older. And I want our kids to go through a learning experience that allows them to come back, invest in Greenburgh, make our community the best place that it could possibly be. And in order to do so, we have to be invested in them today. So people should look into my eyes. I'll take my glasses off if I need to, and listen to the way I speak. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. These little people need us, and I intend to do everything in my power to provide them with exactly what they need from the school.
Thank you. Ms. Fallon?
Overall, I think actions speak louder than words. I've always tried to help when I can, help where I can. I believe in public education. We've helped at every opportunity that we can, and I believe that if you've gone to a meeting, you've seen me there. If you've gone to an event at a school that my kids are at, you've seen me. Instead of out and sitting at a table enjoying the meal, I've probably been in the kitchen cooking it. So can you trust me? I hope so. I hope so, because that's all I care about. I have been here long enough to understand the community, but not long enough where I have long-standing allegiances so that I can be as impartial and as fair as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington?
My love and my passion for education, my love and my passion for my community. I love Greenburgh. I love living here. I love everything about it. I love going down to the community center, over to Trader Joe's. I just love our community. And I believe that the fact that I love education and students, you can trust my decision because it's all about the students. I love the Greenburgh pride. I just, when it comes to Greenburgh, it's a special, special place in my heart. I have given my time, my love, and my effort to the school district and to this community. And I'm not going to stop, whether I'm on the board or not. I'm going to still be here, Kiana Washington, loving education, loving students, and loving my community.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. So I have a track record. I have a track record, a verifiable track record of making recommendations that the community can see that that they can trust my recommendations. I was one of the trustees who supported and actively went out to market the bond proposal. Why? Because our buildings were in terrible shape and we needed it. I'm one of the trustees who voted in the fall of this year when the administration came back with a plan to do some not temporary work, but some emergency work needed to our facilities. I was one of the trustees that supported it. And you can check the transcript and the minutes to see who didn't support that. So that's how you can trust me. You can trust me because I decided that it was a bad idea to change leadership amid a pandemic. And again, you can check the minutes and see who did and did not support that. And finally, you can trust me because I am a trustee who supported renewing Dr. Chase's contract because I saw the direction that we had been going in. I saw that we had finally implemented International Baccalaureate. I saw the implementation of the language program. I saw the OUT program, and I saw the other things that was going on. So my track record says you can trust me because I made the right decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Bitterman?
Hi, thank you. You can trust me. 30 years of public education. Public education is my reason for being. And like those already spoken on this committee, in this forum, I love Greenburgh. This is a part of who I've become. How do you know? Because I'm going to put in the work. I have always put in the work. I will come to every meeting prepared. I will have done my homework. I will have the ability to ask the tough question, to be patient upon waiting for an answer. I will seek data to support decisions that are made moving forward so that we understand that the decisions that we make when we bring in programming must be evaluated and processed and then looked at for efficiency and success. This is why all of us are committed to this committee and to this opportunity. It's because we care for the kids of our community. There's an African proverb about which I think Hillary Clinton titled her book, it takes a village. And this group of people that I'm on this forum with, we are the village. We want to raise these kids to meet their great potentials. And this is just another opportunity and one that I look forward to.
Thank you very much. That ends the question period. Now we will prepare for summations. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for their summations. I just want to thank the community for all the questions that they submitted. We had over 30 questions. We did our best to cover a wide range of topics. I will repeat this again, but go out and vote on May 18th. So now we will go to summations. And again, this was done prior to the meeting, randomly selected, a random order based on numbers from the candidates. So the first person for summations will be Mr. Williams, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, David and Kay. Thank you for doing a wonderful job as the moderators of this forum. I want to thank the PTA Council for this opportunity to meet with you and discuss my candidacy. I hope you appreciate my straightforward responses to your questions. I've always tried to be as transparent and straightforward as possible. I'm a big jazz fan. To quote the great song by Thelonious Monk, "Straight no chaser" is how I like to live my life and answer questions and deal with people. You should vote for me, again, because I have the experience, I'm a transparent person, and I believe in accountability. I want to share with you a couple of things, a couple of reasons why my experience is important here. 2 practical examples. During this past year, I rejoined the audit committee after several years of being off of it. We sent out requests for community volunteers. And as I recalled, at some point I recall that State Education Department recommended that this committee should have a CPA and or other financial professionals involved. That had not been the case for years. We did have Chris Valen, who performed excellently in this role. Chris obviously is not a CPA, but was excellent, as I said, in this role. But I wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with what the State Ed Department wanted us to do. And I got some pushback from some of my colleagues on the board for this. But as a result of my recommendation, we added Michael Owens, a CPA, and Chris Lazari, who I believe is the husband of Sarah Lazari, as an experienced professional. We have a potential crisis here with the town of Greenburgh encroaching upon our financial stability. And we're going to need people with experience who understand the dynamics of muni finance to push it back against that. That's why I am the person for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Lazari.
Thank you so much, Kay and David, for this opportunity. I really appreciate the time. To the PTA Council, I'm so glad that you all gave us this forum to speak tonight. I think that right now, Greenburgh is at a crossroads. Are we going to sort of stay the course that we've been on for some years now? Or are we going to make a change? Are we going to think towards the future? Are we going to openly communicate? Are we going to fix our buildings? Are we going to improve our academic achievement? I want to do all these things. I want to grow and strengthen the GCSD community with you. I think I am the right person for this job. I have already brought my activism to the district. Just in the short time I've been involved, I am invested in you. I am invested in the future, not just for now, but for the next 15 or 20 years. I want to see change in Greenburgh, and I hope that you can do that by electing me, Sarah Lazari, on May 18th.
Thank you. Ms. Darden Cintron.
Okay. Again, thank you to Kay and Mr. Jackson for hosting this. A wonderful job as usual. And thank you for the community for taking your time to watch us and hear what we have to say. I would say, in summary, I am a dedicated person, a dedicated advocate, a dedicated parent, to ensure that all students receive a quality education from the Greenburgh Central School District. I am also a person that is a servant leader, someone that believes that where you live is pinnacle to how you treat everyone else in the world. I believe that this work is work that is hard. It is stressful, but it is worthy. Making sure that we provide not just our students with a great education, but we bring in and we support wonderful teachers and wonderful staff from facilities all the way up to our principals. Also, I would say too, I think that it's also important that we keep our eyes on not on just the quality of education, but of course that we have and we develop a plan to address our facilities. That cannot be said more than ever. And I think it is really crucial that we have a plan that is updated every month. Every month, we should be telling our community what we are doing and how we are addressing our aging facilities. We should have a clear plan that all of our community, whether they have children in this district or not, can get behind and can support. I ask you to please elect me on May 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fallon.
Well, thank you again to Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, the PTA Council, for organizing this event. Improving our schools requires multiple pillars to help hold our students up. The staff, the teachers, the admin, all of the facilities people, the maintenance people. Thank you. Thank you for going through this hard year with us together and for being there and going through all the difficulties. Parents and community members, you guys have been a fantastic support during this year. What I will ask of you now is to please, if you're watching this meeting, go to a meeting a month, go to a meeting a year, help support the fundraisers, go to a sporting event, go to a play or a concert. Please continue to be involved in the schools. And the third pillar, I think, is the board. And as the Board of Education, as I said earlier, I think we are the bridge between the community and the school staff. So for that reason, I ask for you to support me, to help me serve you in a different way, to choose me as your voice on the board. I'm a dedicated, respectful, thoughtful, open-minded, problem-solving, collaborative, caring parent who wants our children to do their very best, no matter how it's defined for each child. There's a different definition for each one, and I think we need to make sure we're supporting in the best way that we can. So please, I ask you to support the budget. I ask you to support the budget resolution, which will help add more money to our repair reserve or our capital reserve. I also ask you to support me as a fresh perspective on the board. Please vote for Valen and look at voteforvalen.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Washington.
So I stand here today on the shoulders of Nettie Jackson, Rita Jones, Ruth Mitchell, Cora Carey, Lloyd Newland, Pat Weems. I stand on those shoulders because they poured into me in 1985 when I was at the bus stop getting ready to go to Woodlands High School Middle School. They poured into me to be what I am today. And I feel that their leadership and their love has helped me to want to come and serve on the Greenburgh Board of Education. I truly thank them for all that they have done for me. And as a board member with my educational background, with my love for Greenburgh and the Greenburgh Central School District, I believe I could be the candidate that will work collaboratively with the new superintendent, Dr. Iverson, really to make change, especially in our lower grades, so that we can make sure by the time the students get to third grade, they are reading and doing math on grade level. I'm excited about the opportunity. I thank you, PTA Council, for allowing me to be a part of tonight. And I hope that you vote for Kiana Washington on May 18th.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Sorry, I was on the other screen. Well, yes, I first want to thank the PTA for putting this together. Kay and David, you guys have done a phenomenal job. I want to thank the Greenburgh Teachers Federation for your support in my candidacy. To all the students, the parents, educators, and the community at large that listened tonight, as well as my fellow candidates. I believe I learned a little bit from every last one of you guys, and I appreciate it. So after all of this is said and done on May 18th, and me and two of you guys are added to the board, I'm going to invite everybody over. I keep talking about cooking. I'm so sincere. If you're vaccinated, we're going to sit on the backyard and we are going to figure this thing out. We're going to start from a place of getting along, and that is what's going to lead to us being able to do what we need to do for our children. I do hear a lot about, what we want to do for the district, and I want us to be more ambitious, man. I want us to be a district that people clamor to be a part of, because we don't just tinker around the edges with what we need to do for education, but where we really, really, really look at all of the innovative things that are being done by people all over the country. This is one of my favorite books, What School Could Be. There's all kind of brilliant things. This guy traveled around the country, spoke to teachers and educators and students and community groups everywhere. I actually think it might be required reading for all of us. The Greenburgh can be so much more than we're even talking about right now. And if we do that for our school system, it will translate to our community at large. I do love this place. I grew up here. I grew up in the community center. I want people to feel the way I do about this community, and I look forward to helping that to happen when I join the board. Please vote Jamal Thomas. Please go to jamalthomas.com to check out some more of my platform. I appreciate you guys all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Bitterman.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, thank you so much for the gracious way that you conducted this forum. You, the PTA Council, all of the people who have spent their evening with us tonight, I want to thank you as well. As I mentioned earlier in my opening, restoring the focus of the district can only be done if trustees and members of the central administration understand the roles that they played. Only when roles are defined and understood, then can a relationship of trust be built. And once that exists, they can do the hard work, examine the data, evaluate program effectiveness. It may sound dry in a closing, but this is the important work of a board. Setting goals and evaluating how programs reach those goals, where they fall short, and having the courage of our convictions to share that information, whether in positive or not, with all stakeholders in our community. During my previous tenure on the board, I demonstrated the skill set necessary to help facilitate a respectful dialogue between board members and the community and its administration. All stakeholders understood that we may not agree on a policy position, but I will always respect your right to be heard. I will continue to advocate at the Board of Education, support transparency in all of its policy work. That the voices of our community, that when we hear voices from our community, that they are celebrated opportunities, that we acknowledge that their voices have meaning to all of us. Board members serve as trustees, and that trust must never be taken for granted. Instead, it must be earned each day through the words and the actions of each and every member. Therefore, I pledge to you that kind of effort day by day by day. I ask respectfully for your support. Please vote for Eric Bitterman and visit Educators for BOE. And
Thank you, Mr. Bitterman.
Thank you.
Okay, we did it. So on behalf of the PTA Council, David and myself thank the community and parents for their questions and involvement, and for hanging out with us tonight to learn about our school board candidates. To our candidates, our illustrious candidates, thank you. Pat yourself on the back. You did it. We made it through. But most importantly, to the community, need to go out and vote for the school budget and for your school board trustees on May 18th. Again, the vote for the budget and the school board trustees will be on May 18th. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you guys so
Good
much.
night.
Good night. Thank you, Miss Antoinette, Eric, Sarah, Jamal, Kiana, Terry, and Laser. I'm so sorry, Laser.
Thank you, Laser.
Thank you, and Chris. Okay.